So we're in the second Sunday of a very short series on generous living, and we're just doing 2 weeks of that, not 4 weeks like a lot of times we do. But this is the second Sunday about looking at living generously, and living generously has so much more to do than simply finances. It has the whole notion of being generous with time, with friends, with family, even with strangers. The giving of your time to someone and not necessarily expecting something back. Generous living has to do with resources. Sometimes that might be financial resources. Sometimes that might be different kinds of resources that aren't quite so tangible, but giving of wisdom because you've lived on the earth a little bit longer than someone else has. Or someone has poured wisdom into you in a powerful, impactful way that you can pass along. That's giving generously. Of course, it also does deal with giving generously financially, too. It actually has a lot more to do. It's not about what we have so much as what we do with what we have. Last week, if you happen to be in here or if you listen to the modern service online, Jay was in here and he gave some good news and some bad news. And so if you were in here, you might remember. If not, this is what he said. He said, the good news is you are rich. And some people may go, you hadn't seen my bank account. You hadn't crunched the numbers the way I crunch the numbers. But actually, the good news is you are rich. According to Global Rich List, this is very interesting. If you make over $35,000 a year or more, you are in the top 1% of wage earners worldwide. And so that causes us to get out of our country a little bit and to think more globally, to think about riches worldwide. I remember one time when Jay and I were in seminary and we were hosting a missionary that week. It was missionary week, happened to be at seminary in Kentucky where we were. And we were having a man stay with us. And actually, I'll put this plug in, it was the year that Sid Bream slid into home plate. And hey, we happened to be, seeing Braves lovers of all around. Woo! Let's give a hand. No. Just kidding. I mean, for those of you, those who stayed up last night are clapping because those are Braves fans. But it is something to celebrate. But it was that year of him sliding in. We remember that because we had our popcorn and our ice cream. Actually, it was a milkshake. That was when we could do those kind of things at midnight, long when we were young, and it didn't affect us quite so much. We were eating that, but the missionary had gone to sleep like, I don't know, with the chickens. I mean, he was like, I'm sleepy. We ate dinner, and he was in bed by 7 o'clock. And so literally, Jay and I were on the sofa, and we were going, yeah. And we were high-fiving, and one of our best friends lived across the street, and he came over. His name was Rusty Hudson. He came over in his boxers and were banging on the side of the house. Bam, 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 bam. We were going, shh. It was a type of a celebration, so it sort of hangs in my mind. But it was that long ago that this conversation happened with a missionary that was staying in our house. Now, literally, when we were in seminary, we would define ourselves as dirt poor. We didn't have a dirt floor, but we would have defined ourselves as dirt poor. Like when we wanted to go to get a gallon of milk, sometimes we would pull out, this is no joke, we would pull out, the cushions from the sofa to see if there were quarters in there and stuff. I don't know if any of you have ever had to do that. It's a humbling experience. And looking for those kind of things. We were both working full-time. We were both full-time students, and we were doing the best we could, but money was tight. We ate dinner one night, and boy, we poured out, we really put out a great spread to welcome and be hospitable to our missionary that was staying with us. And he looked around our house, which was quite a humbling dwelling that we really thought was humble dwelling. And he said, you were rich. And we smiled and we said, well, yeah, we're rich in friends. And we're rich in marriage. We have a great love relationship. We're rich with family. He was like, no, you're rich. And so we sort of pondered that a little bit, and we felt a little bit awkward at the table. And he pointed over to our television. And he pointed over to the VCR that we had just bought 6 months before that we'd saved money for to buy it. For that's what you bought back in that day in the early 90s. And so he said, you have that there, and you have what's underneath so you can watch movies. He said, do you know the people in my country don't have anything even remotely that technical, with that technology? And it was, all of a sudden, there's a little hush fell over, of a different kind of hush, a humbling type. And I said, oh, yeah. And then he started talking about our central air, and he started talking about, and he wasn't doing it to shame us or to point or to say, he was just going, you're so rich. And so he was looking around sort of in awe, and we were like, wow. It was a very humbling type thing. The idea that if you make $35,000 a year or more, you're in the top 1% of wage earners causes us to have to get out of our American type of mindset. We've come to dismiss that, though, sometimes, and we talk about, well, we're doubly rich with friends, or we're doubly rich with family. But financially speaking, we are also in the category of being rich. But then Jay also highlighted last week the bad news is that we have rich people distractions. And so there comes this idea that because we do have resources, that sometimes that causes us to get our eyes off of priorities, that take us away from true priorities. So sometimes when we have different wealth in our bank account or around our house or toys in the garage of all sizes and kinds, or the things that we have that we surround ourselves, that we enjoy, it can cause us to be less dependent upon God. It can cause us to get distracted from the very things that we say are our priority in life. It's a tremendous responsibility to sort of keep these things in front of us. And so maybe for some of you, when you saw the title for today, you're like, oh, why did I come this Sunday? It's this Sunday where you're talking about money again. Oh, the reality of talking about generous living, as I've already said, has a lot more to do than with money. However, it is worth noting that the whole topic of money was talked about with Jesus and by Jesus almost more than any other topic. Why? Obviously, money is important. Obviously, trade is important. It is the way we live. It is how we provide, how we put food on the table, how we put a shelter over our head and our family's head, how we provide for the future. It is important. And so Jesus spoke about the importance of it, the dangers of it, the good news of it, the bad news of it. Because God has given us so much, he expects so much. That's an actual quote, really, too, sort of a paraphrase, but it is a quote from Scripture. Unto much is given, much is expected. And so we take a look at the idea of living generously and how riches can have a deceitfulness to them. There is a deceitfulness of riches. And we could have all kinds of examples. One of those that sometimes comes to mind when I'm at, like, God help me, Chuck E. Cheese. Who loves Chuck E. Cheese? 3 people raise their hands. I see your hands. Nobody else raise their hands. Chuck E. Cheese is fun for the moment until the noise just starts going, wow, 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 wow. So Chuck E. Cheese is fun for a little bit. There's other places that have all the games and toys and everything out there, but if you've gone there, more than a dozen times, you're like, oh, not the top of my priority list, not the food or the noise. But when you go to a place like that, one of the things that you can do is go play games and get tickets. And your kids want all the tickets you can get. And so then the parents get up there because the tickets, there's only like 4 tickets. And they want all the tickets to go to the prize counter. And so the parents are helping them play whatever the game is. Throw something or roll a ball or whatever. And sometimes the parents have a little bit more skill because they've done it a lot longer, a bowling game. But whatever they're good at, they get more and more tickets. And they get more and win more and get more tickets. But when they get up to the ticket counter and they've got, 420 tickets, what do they get but finger puppets? Y'all laugh because you know exactly. You're like, are you serious? Do you know how much I played that game to get a stinking little finger puppet that's going to break by the time we get to the car? That's all they get. And we go back and we try to get some more, and again, it goes back to this prize. And the whole idea sometimes is we try and we try and we try and we do more and we do more, and then we end up with a prize that's not very satisfying. We grow up and the tickets change, and it's hard to believe that our tickets could be transformed into something a little bit different, maybe a lot of Benjamins on the front of them, I don't know. But we think that it's going to provide us this significant sense of satisfaction, this significant, even possible moment happiness. The tickets, though, promise something that they don't really deliver. And so it can be something like a different type of finger puppet, but the world actually wants us to serve money instead of God. To get caught up in that, let's try to accumulate more, let's have more things. And Matthew 6, chapter 6, verse 24, gives us a fairly strong warning. It says this: no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Jesus didn't say you can't serve both God and power, or you can't serve both God and popularity. You cannot serve both God and money is the wording there. Why do you think that is? Because I believe that money is actually a very, very attractive false god. Money is the number one competitor for your heart. That's a strong statement. Money is the number one competitor for your heart. And how was that statement brought about? I believe that living generously has far more to do with your heart and the state of your heart than the state of your wallet. Living generously has more to do with your heart and the state of your mind than the state of your wallet. Because I've already said, we can give our time to family and to friends and to even strangers. We can be generous with it. We can be generous with a tip at a table, or we can be quite stingy with it. We can be generous with giving to a friend or a loved one, or actually making some deposits in a bank to provide for the future, to save for the future. We can be generous with it in so many ways, and yet we can also hoard it. We can be generous with spirit of forgiving people when they've done something that's rubbed up against us and has caused us to be angry or has caused us to be agitated. We can be generous with spirit by giving them a gracious moment to say, they had a bad day. You know what? God's moving in their life too, and He's evolving them just as He's evolving my own heart. Or we have this grudge, and by God, I will not forget what they ever did. I will never, ever forget what they did. We can have a generous spirit. We can have a haughty spirit. We can have generous hands where we give, or we can have clenched fists where we don't, where we hold back and we hoard, where we hold back and say, I don't know if I have enough to be generous with people. Money, when it comes to that title, that topic, that whole impact of our lives, is the huge competitor for our heart. Why is it so attractive? Just what we were talking about. It often promises something that really is something that God provides for us. It promises a happiness, or it promises us security. And yes, it certainly can deliver on a certain level those types of things. We're about to read a passage of Scripture here that talks about the things that God provides and the things that even finances and resources provide, that God developed those for our enjoyment. It's not something wrong to have. And yet to honestly put our sense of happiness or security or fulfillment or all of it, to bank it, literally to bank it on money, we're completely putting it in the wrong place. Most of us would say, I never serve money. But I would just gently put the statement out there, the question out there. If you've ever bought something that you didn't need with money you didn't have in order to impress people you don't know or don't like, you were under the power of money. That's been said by so many people from so many stages that's easily heard and yet hard to come to terms with. I'm going to say it one more time. If you've ever bought something you didn't need with money you didn't have to impress people you don't know or even people you don't like, you were under the power of money. You're believing that that type of ticket will buy you happiness. If you've compromised your integrity in order to save money, you were under the power of money. It's a hard mirror to hold up in front of us to say, wow, money really has a hold on me instead of me having a hold on my money. It's something that, yes, it can cause great stress in marriages. It can cause great stress within our own heart and our anxiety because we don't feel like we have enough to meet to the end of the month. I get that. I've lived that. I know that. I just described how there were times that we were digging down in the service, saying, let's find a quarter. Maybe we can find 4 quarters. I understand that. I literally don't ever want to forget that. Because there's a humbleness that comes with what I have now that I didn't have then, what I can provide for our family, the Tucker household that we didn't have then. All of that is a way to move and to grow and to evolve and to be blessings to other people and blessings to your family. But as we give, we have much to be, as we get, we have much to give. We have much expected from us. John Wesley said, make all you can. Save all you can. Give all you can. Typically, we like to focus on one of those 3 sentences, not all 3. Make all you can. Save all you can. Give all you can. So we make all we can in order that we might turn around and actually bless someone else and bless our family. We save what is needed in order to have something in the future. Again, not to hoard it back, not to turn around and take pictures and go, look at my stuff. Who has the most stuff in the end wins. Right? It's fun to play and talk like that. It's really not very wise to live like that. To give all you can. Our key verse this morning is from 1 Timothy chapter 6, 17 and 19. So it reads like this. Command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us, look at that last part, with everything for our enjoyment. Verse 18, command them to do good, to literally be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In this way, we will lay up treasure for ourselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. That we are not to put our hope completely and solely in money, and this striving to make all that we can because that actually provides for all we can. No, it is uncertain. Just as we just read those words, it is uncertain. We're not to put our trust in riches, but in Him who richly provides. Will you say that actual sentence with me? We're going to put that on the screen, and if you're willing to actually say the words aloud with me, join me in saying that. I will not trust in riches, but in Him who richly provides. It's a powerful statement to actually say and to have intentions to put in your mouth and your money. Putting your money where your mouth is. That I'm not putting all my hope, I'm not trusting in all my riches because it can be here today and gone tomorrow. But I will trust in Him who provides. I will put money in its place, so to speak. Because the problem is money still seems to sort of speak to us and grab hold of us, and it has a hold of us more than we have a hold of it. The people who are in that state of mind face troubles. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 10. Whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. This too is meaningless. It's this deceitfulness of riches. Those who have great wealth, it's a strong defense, yes. It's a great foundation to a certain extent, yes. But we find it difficult to actually say, wow, boy, I am blessed. Let me be a blessing to others. We find it difficult sometimes when we have great wealth to give big, to give large, to say, Lord, you have given, I want to give back. Just as generously as you've given and provided for me, I want to do the same as a generous gratitude and offering of worship back to you, to love you and to love people. Money is deceitful because when we like to say, I'll give to the ministries of the church, and I'll give to the community when I've got my credit card paid off, or when I have the house paid for, or when I get my kids through college. And the reality is we keep putting it off. When I have this and when I have that, I'll be more generous. And when I can do this, I'll be more generous then. And already swinging back to what I just said just a while ago, it has more to do with the heart than it does with the wallet. The state of our heart and the state of our mind affects our generosity more than the state of our wallet. We need to give now because we've been blessed now. We need to give in the present because we are given in the present. We're blessed by God. And as we are blessed, then, and we realize that blessing, is when then we're able to live generously, not stingy, not regretfully, or not in a begrudging type of way. The problem is we get so distracted by all the things that money does provide. And yet, one of the things that we often tend, when we put our trust in money, when we start doing what we just read together and said aloud together, when we don't put our trust in God and lean on Him, when we start leaning on the money, then we're actually leaning on the idea that it does provide what the Scriptures say is a false foundation. Because money doesn't ultimately give you peace. It might help you rest at night. Wow, I can pay all the bills this month. I've got this in the bank so we can do that in the future. I've got this so my children can have that when they need to go off to school or whatever they might need. But a lot of times people who are the wealthiest in the world are those who struggle with zero peace. And they can't sleep at night, even though they've got far more than they would ever need. There is this peaceless living. The money can't stop a cancer from growing in your body. Can money help address it? Absolutely. But it can't stop it from ultimately forming altogether. Money can't stop a family member from completely becoming addicted to some type of drug, some type of destructive aspect. There's so many things that money can't do that our trust doesn't need to be in money. We say that money doesn't provide everything, but it can buy me a boat. There's an old country song like that. I love that song. And I'm like, yeah. And it can buy me this, and it can buy me that. And there's nothing wrong with that. we save money to go on vacations. And when we go on vacations, we live large. We try to do the best we can, though, with a wise mind and utilizing the resources we've been given. And so we make what we can, and we save what we can, and then we strategically talk about how we can give. And so one of the things that we're talking about now, and we have for the past 3 weeks, is like the commitment cards that we've been talking about at church. And the commitment card is our way of collectively, strategically coming to how can we strategically be in ministry in Bryan County and beyond. And why do we push for a commitment card? It's because that helps us actually have clear money numbers. It's not just a commitment of finances, it's a commitment of praying. And so I actually encourage you to grab a commitment card. If you don't know a figure that you're willing or thinking of how that you might strategically give to the ministry of Jesus Christ here at Richmond Hill United Methodist Church, then don't put a figure down. Check, yes, I'm committed to pray. I'm committed to ask God how He strategically wants to use my time, my talent, my resources, my wallet. How can I strategically, with a heart and a mind to worship and express gratitude to God, give to God? That's what this commitment card is about. We're hoping that folks will turn it in. Literally, the Sunday that the concert's going to be up here, we're hoping for it then, because it helps us then to actually literally be intentional and strategic, that we might use our resources to the best of our ability, the best of the wisdom that God has given us, that we might minister to others. I cannot tell you the number of people, I've lost count, who've started coming to the church or sending an email saying, I'm watching you online, and I've been watching for over a year. Now that is wonderfully satisfying to hear, because for months and months and months we thought we're talking into space and nobody's listening. But when somebody comes and says, I want to be baptized, and I haven't missed a Sunday online, then it is tremendously an affirmation from heaven above that the money we spent on helping our technology, it was effective for the gospel of Jesus Christ. Do you hear what I'm saying? So how do we use our money? Is that when we're willing to say, I'll stand and commit. You can count on me. That I don't know exactly how to do it, but I have this desire to live generously. That I want to give. That I want others, when they're going through something stressful, whether it's with a child or a spouse or both or a parent or a stranger or a coworker or a boss, when they're going through the heat of the thick of junk in life, that they know God is there to be their fortitude, their fortress, their mighty warrior alongside of them, give them peace. Some of the people that walk in Bryan County don't have that. They don't know that. They weren't poured into and taught that. Some of us have been taught that since we were in children's church, from the earliest of ages. But there are so many people who don't have that background, who don't have that foundation. And so what are they walking on? This whole thing the scriptures talk about, like sinking sand. And so when the storm starts coming, they feel like they really can't walk because they're just sinking. And they need this whole hope-filled message that it is God Himself that provides a solid rock upon which they can stand. That's our prayer. That as we commit to living generously, we won't just think about the idea and say, that's a great idea. But no, literally, we'll put our money where our mouth is. It makes a major difference. Make all the money you can. Save all the money you can. Give all the money you can. That's our exhortation this morning, that we might live generously, that we might inspect our own hearts to see where we haven't done it recently, or where we've been doing it and how God's like, oh, bless you, my child. I see you. Others may not see it, but I see it. I see where you're generous in your time. I see where you're generous in giving people a second chance and a third chance. I see it when you have the opportunity to take revenge and you don't. I see it when you give to a stranger. I see it when you give in the offering plate. See. For He knows when we don't sleep at night. He knows why we don't sleep at night. And He knows when we give and why we give. And He knows when we don't and why we don't. Giving, living generously, is truly an expression of gratitude for the one who's been so generous with us. Let's pray together. God, help us overcome the lies that promise us things that they don't provide. Father, help us to be introspect, where we look at not just one tiny aspect of our spiritual growth, of our discipleship, but that we look at it as a whole. And Father, money's a big one for us, and you know it. God, help us to have minds and hearts and spirits to be your generous children. Father, as we are generous, we pray, we ask that you multiply it, that truly your truth might be spread, that your gospel might be shared, and lives might be transformed, and that we might be a part of it. We pray this in the powerful